A couple of videos ago, I left off asking a question about these pins that stick up through this block. They look worn down to me. I thought maybe they might have been rounded tops and they've been worn flat over the years. They just look worn. Anyway, old Sparky jumped up and said, "You're right, they are worn, and what they're called is contact plungers." He said they probably, you need to replace them. They're no good anymore. Or at least you need to do something about them, I guess, is what he was pointing out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these 4 screws out. This one I have circled. I have it circled because the wire on the bottom has come off. Apparently it's been off for quite a while. We're going to go ahead and take these 4 screws out and see what it looks like under there and remove this one right here. All the screws are out. By the way, they were real long. They just weren't screws that went down in there. You know, these went all the way through to the bottom, and they had a star washer on them and a nut. Now this one over here in the corner, it had a flat washer also, and there's a reason for that. All the rest of these underneath was a contact that these wires were soldered to, and the screw went through that contact and held that contact in place on the bottom. This one here didn't have that, so they just put a flat washer with a lock washer and a nut. So, alright, those 4 are out. Alright, I don't see any creepy crawlers under there. Tell you what, let's just go ahead and take it off the rest of the way and see what happens. Well, how about that? Now this is the one that had nothing attached to it. It was supposed to have a wire attached to it, but it didn't. So let's see if we can't take that one right up out of there, see what's underneath there. Well, let's look down there and make sure there's nothing in there that we don't want to leave out. Nope, just a little rust and dirt. Yeah, I would say these things have about had the lick. Well, that's what they look like. That's pretty cool, huh? Notice how the bar goes in. These here have slots for the bars to go in. These 2 in the middle. These 2 on the outside, they're just sort of in the center there, just sort of hanging around. Let me scope that out a little bit more. Okay, nothing to be afraid of. Just know that the spring is flared. It has a wide flared end that goes down. The smaller end goes up to the tight flare, or the flared end is here, and the tighter end goes up here underneath that. I guess it's a fixed washer with a rod that goes all the way through it. By the way, I took a couple of small pieces of electrical tape, taped that thing back together to hold it in place, you know, because we have a lot of flipping and flopping around to do yet on this thing. There's a little bit more cleaning I'd like to do. I'd like to get this thing up here a little cleaner if possible. You know, that's something everybody sees when they look through the glass and the record's going in and out. And I'd like to make that look a little bit cleaner and shinier. So that's it for now on that. Time to move on to something else. I decided to just go ahead and remove this mechanism. And this, you know, it's not connected to anything. It's just bolted on there, and it has nothing to do with the operation of the mechanism at all. This is just a brush thing that brushes off the needle on one side and the needle on the other. When the needle goes by it, kind of keeps them clean. You know, we've seen those in millions of turntable setups, you know. Okay, but you know what I decided to do actually is go ahead and stick it in Evapo-Rust for overnight or something. But this brush mechanism and this brush setup has to come out. And from what I've been able to figure out, it just slides in and out. It's got a couple of prongs on the end. See it? To slide in slots into plastic. I should be able to just take my thumb, just push it right on out, I hope. I may have to spread it apart a little bit, but we'll see. I'm sure I can get that out in one piece. Well, as expected, see the slot on both sides? This slid just slides right between those two forks. Just pressure holding it in, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, we'll soak that overnight, and I think that'll make a big difference. I soaked that lever all night long in Evapo-Rust. Let's see what it looks like the next day. Ooh, that looks pretty nice. Pretty darn good. Well, all the rust is just about gone. I think what I'll do, not all of it's gone. I think what I'll do is let it soak for another hour or two. Then I'll go ahead and scrub it up real good. And see what it looks like after it's been scrubbed and cleaned. One other thing that our good subscriber, Sparky1958, helped me out with, I think he's helped me out with it, I still have to find out, but he's probably right. I needed to know what color this was on the inside of the cabinet. It's kind of strange. I don't even know why they would paint it like that. It might be for its reflective quality. I think it's a metallic paint. Why they would need it down here is beyond me. I could see it up here at the top of the jukebox where the fluorescent bulbs are. It kind of make everything sort of look glowing. I don't know. And here's what it looks like. I took a piece and I washed it off. It's kind of difficult to see a little bit there, but it has a reflective metallic property to it. Anyway, he said that he doesn't really know exactly what the color is. However, General Motors had a color from 1992 called Light Sapphire Blue, and the number is 22T. And so what I'm going to do is go down. I checked on a color chart on the internet. It does look very, very close. So I'm going to go down to a paint store, an automotive paint store, sometime in the next week and see what they can do for me. And if it costs too much, I only need about a quart, if that. But if it turns out, you know, they want like $3,000 for a quart of the stuff, I have a plan B afoot. Okay, let's get back to this mess. Last time, I believe it was the last, I think it was the last video, Sparky, our good subscriber, Sparky1958, who has experience with these jukeboxes, he said to check the rubber mounting on the motor and the bottom mounting where the motor sits down here on this bracket. He said there's one of these on top and bottom, which of course I already knew because I cleaned them. He said check their condition, and mostly this one right here on the bottom. This baby right there that goes between them. Well, I'm happy to say that they are all in very good condition. Very pliable, very solid, not hard as a rock. This one right here is, again, very pliable. Looks like they've been changed here at some point in time. You would think that this thing here is just very rubbery, like it's supposed to be. Top and bottom is good, so I'm happy. And I'm kind of glad he had me do this, because look what do you see down in there? I would have missed it completely. Another set of contacts. Well, one more thing, you know, old Sparky, he said, now look, I'm telling you all these things, but if you don't want me to tell you and you want to learn it on your own, I'll just be quiet. Well, I don't have to hear everything. I can learn some things on my own, but something like this was pretty important. I would have found it sooner or later, you know, checked it out, but I never would have found that set of contacts as a result of it. I would have just probably flipped it up, felt it, and that would have been the end of it, but I gave it a very good inspection. So we got to get those points cleaned down there. Let's do that. Well, the points are clean now. I feel a lot better. And one other thing that Sparky said I should do is remove the tone arm and all that. And, well, that's not going to happen. He said it should be cleaned and everything, and to prevent problems later on. I understand that, and I understand, you know, that I could have problems later on, but I'm not going to take it out because I don't have that kind of confidence. There's a lot of mechanical movement and different things down here and adjustments. It's the old story, you know, if it's not broke, leave it. And this one here, you know, it goes back and forth very easily. It goes left and right very easily and moves very easy. So I don't think, I just don't see a problem with it right now. If I have to remove it, you know, if I have to take the machine back out and go ahead and remove this and clean this down here, then Sparky can say, I told you so, but I'm sorry. Right now, there's just not enough confidence to tear this mechanism apart to get this out. Not going to happen. However, I do have a question. This sliding thing, this entire carriage right here that supports the tone arm, or pickup arm, is supposed to move back and forth along this rod back here. Also, this thing here stays in the slot and it moves. The whole thing moves back and forth so the tone arm can play one side or the other side of the record. My problem is, I saw a guy, I can't remember where it was, but I saw a guy doing a repair on a jukebox on YouTube, and he was able to slide this thing all the way back and forth. All I can get out of it is this much. You know, what is, that's the maximum. Is there something that has to be released to allow that to go all the way across? Or does the cam, the position of the cam, have something to do with this? I've looked everywhere to try to figure out how to release that thing. I moved this thing up and down. I thought maybe, I don't even know what that is. I've seen people do, flip that thing up and down 100 times on various videos, but did they ever explain what they were doing? No, of course not. They just say, well, we're going to do this and do that, which makes me nuts, you know. The whole idea of doing a restoration like this is to explain these sorts of things. Most people don't. They just, I don't know. Anyway, if I move that up or down, it makes no difference at all in how this thing works. Just same thing, it only goes so far. I don't think it really has anything to do with it. Anyway, is there something I have to release in order to make that work? Let me know. I'll tell you what, I'm getting a little tired of working on this thing. I think it's time for a change. We pretty much got it all done anyway. So I'm going to just kind of move it over this way and then work on something else. I'll tell you what, before we go to something else, I have some stuff soaking in some Evapo-Rust right now. We might as well put as much as we can in there. These rubber bumpers here, you'll notice that this one here is just about broken off anyway. Not in very good shape. But the brackets that hold them, there's one there and there's one over here. We'll go ahead and take those off, throw them in the Evapo-Rust and let them soak for a while. I might even take, I don't know, maybe these tabs here that hit the forward and reverse switch. This thing right here. When this thing comes rolling down the track, this thing hits it and makes it go this way, and then this thing bats it back the other way and makes the mechanism go back the other way. I might even take these out and soak them in that stuff too. I don't know, but this whole bottom of this thing needs cleaning, but we're not going to do that today. We'll do that another day. I just want to get some stuff in that Evapo-Rust. Before you remove the bracket that has the rubber bumper in it, turn around the other way and take note of where these raised spots are. They're right up against the slot, which faces the outside. The other one's the same way. These are those raised spots right there, okay? The screws go in from the top, the raised spots go in the slot and tight up against. That way you don't have to worry about adjusting them. Pretty nifty thing old Seeburg did there. Well, it looks like both of these rubber bumpers will have to be replaced, but here's something that I thought was interesting. I don't think I've ever seen this before. The opposite side, this is rubber now, right here, that rubber nub that sticks through the hole, is held in with a C-clip. How about that? Now this one here, it's missing. It's probably been gone for a long time. So that's something else that's going to give us a headache. Got to work on that. What we have here is the unit's amplifier for those of you who are just tuning in. And you'll notice that it has a lot of rust spots on it, small ones here, there, and everywhere. You know, the question is, can I get those rust spots off? The way I see it, I've got probably three options. One is to just disregard it and let it go. And number two would be to find some, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Rust-Oleum makes some clear enamel. I could tape everything off, spray all the rusted area with clear enamel Rust-Oleum, and that would bind the rust in place, and you know, it wouldn't spread. At least that's the theory. That's one way that they advertise about the paint they sell, Rust-Oleum. It binds with the rust and holds it, and it won't spread and all this other jazz, and it protects the rest of the metal around it. The third option is to see if I can remove some of it in a safe manner. Now, we have a lot of printing on this chassis, and we want to be very careful not to remove any of that printing. which pretty much tells me that using navel jelly, unless it's an area like right here, okay, there's no printing there at all. Navel jelly is pretty much out of the question at this point, okay? So what does that leave us? What should we do? Well, I think there's another option I'm going to try. It's called Evapo-Rust. No, I'm not going to sink the entire chassis down in Evapo-Rust. I'm going to take this paintbrush right here. I'm going to do a little test first, somewhere here, and I'm going to dip it down in the Evapo-Rust that I have in this container. It's just stuff right there. I'm going to lay it on for a little while, maybe in this area right here, to see if it'll remove that rust. It might be a long, tedious process, but I'd like to do that. I would like to de-rust this thing. Then I can tape it off, and then I can spray it with clear Rust-Oleum. So let me get started on this, and I'll let you watch. Now, Evapo-Rust is 100% safe. You can put your fingers in it. It's biodegradable. You know, there's no fumes. There's no danger to it. It won't hurt your hands at all. It won't hurt your skin. Nothing. Okay. 100% safe. When you're all done, you can, if you don't want it anymore, you can wash it down the sink. Not a problem. And it does the job. Now, it doesn't get in there and immediately eat stuff away and foam up and all that. No, it's a slower process, but it works very, very well. So let's do a little bit of let's try right here. It doesn't harm any of the tube sockets. It doesn't harm anything really. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here for a while. Just kind of lay that in there and see if we have any effect at all. I'll keep it wet over the next 15-20 minutes while I have a cup of coffee and listen to my radio. And I know that Brendan, he wants me to get done with the top of this too. He wants it all clean and done. Brendan, he's my electronics mentor, for those of you who might be just tuning in. And he's from the Detroit, Michigan area. He's been my mentor for several years now. Anything I don't know, which is generally everything, he knows, which is generally everything. So, you know, he's wanting me to finish this up so we can flip it over and get to the electronics. I understand that. All this cleaning and all this other crap that I've been doing, it's interesting up to a point, and I understand all that, okay? But I have to do this at my own speed. Otherwise, if I don't, I'll make a big-time mistake, and it'll all be for nothing. So let me soak it for a while, and then we'll see how it works, and then I think we can wrap this video up once we make that determination. We'll be back. I have discovered that the Evapo-Rust does not remove the printing. So I just went ahead and showered down on it. I just covered this whole area right here. And then I let it set for about, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And I took this little cut-off piece of Scotch-Brite pad. It's an old, kind of worn-out one the wife had on the sink. And I gave it a little tiny scrub like that, and it just started knocking out the rust big time, just leaving just like black marks on there. It just needs a little more soaking. You can see the difference between this side that I've got soaking right now and this side that I took the Scotch-Brite pad to, and it too has been soaking. So we'll go ahead and work on that. I'll be real happy if all that sort of disappears, which I doubt that it will, but we'll get rid of most of it. So there you go. Now you know that Evapo-Rust will not remove the printing on these chassis. At least on this one. This is Seeburg, you know, all the same, I guess. This is a 1961. I don't know about earlier. I guess that's it. Let's just let me go ahead and work on this for the next couple days, and we'll try to get another video up about the progress. Until next time, this is John. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Here's my solution to the contact plunger problem. Nice reproductions from the Netherlands.